Yo, what is going on, homies? It's your boy StumpD back for the OPTC video, and in today's video, we're focusing on PvP, Pirate Rumble, and in today's video, we're taking a look at the strength-based team. Now, I'm going to be going through all of the different colors and classes in the game when it comes to PvP and Pirate Rumble, and breaking them down for you guys, putting the characters on a tier list, showing off some teams, showing some matches, having some discussions about stuff like bench options, main frontline units, as well as what you need to look out for in terms of when using these particular teams. So, in today's video, as I mentioned, we're going to be focusing on strength, and we're going to be focusing on where strength is strong. So, strength is obviously the counterpart to DEX, so in today's video, we are focusing on utilizing strength against DEX counterparts, because 99% of the time, that's where you'll be using strength. There are some exceptions, and we'll talk about that once we get to the teams down the line, but strength is in such a strange and funny position because it's probably the weakest of the colors. When we are taking on like Dex teams, they're very, very strong, and strength just need a lot of help in actually doing that. But nevertheless, they do have some very, very good units, and we are going to take a look at them, and we're going to slap them on a tier list for you guys first, and then we are going to break down some teams. But if you enjoyed this type of video, belt the like button for me, hit the subscribe button, do all that kind of stuff in the comment section below. Let me know if you guys like the strength team, if you guys use the strength team, what characters and what characters you like to use, and what your favorite character is on that particular team. With that said, let's dive in. Alright, so first of all, I have put all of the strength characters on a tier list. Now, we're talking Legends and Pirate Festival rare recruits. They're the characters that we're going to be talking about today, because strength doesn't really have any characters that kind of fall on the team that aren't that, like rare recruits or casino, all that sort of stuff. So, as you can see here, this is the note category. These characters you're never going to level up. I think some people might have leveled up these characters here way back when, but these particular units, you're not going to level up. They're not going to see too much play. Luffy Sanji had a bit of a rise on a rainbow team, but look, they never really took off. The next tier is the defense tier. Now, strength's in a weird spot that it actually has a lot of really good units that fall on other teams that aren't the strength team. And this is what makes it so interesting, because strength is a color that you don't normally run just strength. You definitely can, and there's a team that we'll talk about later, but strength strikers, strength slashers, you have like fighters, driven, free spirits. There's a lot of different characters that fall normally on the class-based teams that don't stereotypically fall on the strength team. So we have some, these are kind of here, they're good for like nuking options on defensive teams. Bullet's really, really good for provoke. He's pretty much the only sole strength unit, but then you got these like class-based units. Who's amazing on the fighter powerhouse team. Ulti is a demon on the fighter team. Dofi is so good on driven. Driven hasn't really taken off straight driven. It's normally like int driven. But he's so good on that driven team though. He's definitely not to be underrated. Ace Yamato, great on free spirit. And then Neko Inu are awesome on cerebrals and slasher teams. So these characters here, if you want to look at defense teams, we're going to be focusing on attack when it comes to these particular videos. But if you are looking for some defense options, these characters might tickle your fancy. Honestly, like these two here are more like a nope category, but I do want to give them a little bit of respect for their nuking capabilities. Next, we got an option. These guys are options on the team, and Otama's kind of one of those characters that kind of fits in the defensive option because she only boosts free spirit and fighters, but I did want to sort of highlight her as an option because there are a lot of very good free spirit and fighter-based strength characters. Again, what I was talking about earlier about strength being in a weird spot. Sanji, he's an option. He's good for CD reduction. You can chuck him in the front and just let him die. This Vivi can do some really, really good stuff with CT reduction too, but she's very squishy. The Sweet Generals, they're an option for the Slasher build. Whitebeard with his level Liverex is really good with the HP cuts that he gives. And Ace has kind of dropped off, but Ace is definitely the best of the characters in this particular tier. He is very, very good. Next, we've got a Counter Killer. These characters are so good when you are versing the Dex variant. There is an exception of Kaido, which I don't know where I've put Kaido. I don't even think I put Kaido on this tier list. Give me 1 second. Alright, there we go. So, Kaido is an exceptional counter killer. He's one of the only strength characters that can give half stats against Dex. If you partner him up with, like, X-Drake, you can do some really, really cool things. And with the release of Luffy Yamato, you can do some nice stuff there, too. Kaku and Arlong are great for slasher builds and just generic, like, countering Dex builds. Toki is exceptional for the slasher team, the strength slasher team, and then Cracker is very good at nuking or nerfing strength as well. Nerfing Dex as well. But Kaido is really the big one here. Toki's exceptional as well. X-Drake's really, really good. And these characters are very good when you are versing Dex and only Dex. I know we are focusing on Dex for this video, but like these characters are only good against Dex. Like that's their only like positive. Next, we've got the amazing characters, and like as you can see here, Strength do have a lot going for them. They have a lot of very good characters on the team, and These characters can see play across the board. Sander Sonia is a fantastic bench option. Who's Who is terrific with his half stats across the board to anyone. But he doesn't reduce defense. Like, he doesn't halve defense. Came out with Sasaki, who lowers defense. Straw Hat Crew with their haste when you're building out like a free spirit team with like an ace. When you're doing some cheeky stuff with like Otama. If you're doing some stuff with like Odin and whatnot, you can definitely use this Straw Hat Crew. They do boost strength as well, even though they are a dual unit. Boa is great with her confusion tactics. And then you've got Law with his tankiness. K-Dad with his damage output, especially when you hybrid him up with Odin. And then Odin and Toki are very good too, because they also boost strength. So these characters are all amazing. You can slap them on a team, and you are going to have good success there. But when you are building out a strength team, you're usually building it around these characters right here. These are the gods of the strength, and the big one is Kid. I do think he's probably the best strength character when it comes to building out teams, or Jack. Jack is so good as a staple on every single strength team. He provides so much bulk, so much HP. His HP cuts are so good. Kuma and Kid are pretty much your two DPS units. Luffy Yamato also falls in that category as well. They're just a rainbow booster too, so you can easily put them on the team. But most of the other characters aren't going to boost them. These three characters can go through defense, which is really, really nice. And then King can as well. But King is more of a bench option. Very, very good nuker in the last 50 seconds. So you always want him in like your first bench slot. Sasaki, I don't have Sasaki, but I have seen a lot of people use Sasaki on the Strength Striker team. And these are all striker characters. So like, you can do some crazy ass stuff with this particular team here. It goes absolutely ballistic. As well as the waifus too. They're also a striker. But the waifus, they're kind of on the cusp of gods and amazing. Whenever I verse waifus, they absolutely destroy me with their confusion. Whenever I use waifus, they just don't do the same thing. So they're an interesting unit. But with Free Spirit being so good, I had to put them up here at the moment. So that's the tier list of the strength characters at the moment. Let me know your thoughts and opinions of these characters in the comment section below. But let's take a look at some teams now. Alright, so the first team that we're going to take a look at is the Strength Striker build. Now, like I said at the start, this is soul-centric at taking on stuff like DEX. And stereotypically, most of the time you'll see stuff like Luffy, Dalton, Pell, Yuita's Kid, Verse Yamato, Queen, all of those crazy-ass DEX units. Because they're all very, very powerful. And they do see a lot of play on defensive teams. So the way I've sort of set this up, as you can see at the top here, this is like the team that we're going up against. And this is the team that we're rocking here. As for this particular team, one of the big downfalls to it is it does run 5 legends, which means you don't have a lot of versatility with your bench. Strength have a lot of PvP rare recruits, and one of their strengths is actually their bench options. Having a lot of characters to fill out that bench and run the 8-man teams means that you have a lot of back-end damage as well as a lot of sustainability if things go wrong in the early stages. So with this team, that's its big downfall, is you don't have many options on the bench. However, they do have access to Sander Sonia, which is one of like the best PvP rare recruits when you get all of her abilities off, because we do have a bowler on the team. But you can also just chuck something like King on the team here because you have Jack as a fighter, and this particular team rocks exceptionally well. Running all strikers means that you're getting all the buffs from Kaido, plus Kaido is half-statting the DEX units that you do come up against. This particular team pretty much only works against DEX. It's not like the final team that we'll look at. But even still, when you are running strength, 99.999% of the time, you will be versing a majority of DEX units anyway. Otherwise, you should probably be using a different team. The downfalls to this team, besides the bench, as I mentioned, is the waifus are still RNG reliant. They do require, obviously, the confusion to hit the right characters. X-Drake has action bind, but it's not 100% accurate. And Kid can whiff, which is just a big downfall, in my opinion. It's a little bit annoying, but it's not the be-all, end-all, because the amount of damage that these characters have and the buffs that they give, the bind and the confusion, is so incredibly powerful when they actually go off, which is just so damn nice. The way to run this build as well is you can actually replace X-Drake with the new Luffy Yamato. Luffy Yamato are actually a striker, and they're a rainbow booster, so they literally boost everyone on this team as well, which gives you a lot of damage output because they go through defense. The combination of Luffy Yamato and Kid just gives you so much attacking prowess, and going through defense is great because DEX are so chonky in the regards of their defensive and HP stats. Combating that with stuff like Jack going through your defense, HP cuts of Kaido as well, and then the confusion of the waifus to sort of avoid specials as well, means that you're not taking as many shots from stuff like Luffy. He's not giving the cooldowns. Dalton and Pell aren't popping their crazy damage specials off. Queen isn't action binding you, and versus Yamato isn't getting off those crazy specials as well. Lucci's also a bit of a problem on the DEX team because he can lower your defense, so you have to be mindful of that. But this particular strength team, it works fairly well. Like with the half stats of Kaido, you can get a lot of damage output just with your regular attacks as well. You also take a lot less damage, but as you can see, like, we're not getting that special off until the end of our special rotation, which is a little bit annoying. If you can get Kaido off before, like, Luffy Yamato go the first time, which I actually think I do in this particular fight, because Luffy Yamato got action binded, but your speed gets drastically reduced thanks to, like, some of the DEX characters. So it does have its problems. It's not the best DEX team. It was one that I used to use way back when, but nowadays I've kind of shifted towards different, strength teams. I have shifted towards other strength teams, which we'll talk about towards the end of this video, but all in all, it does work incredibly well when we are versing DEX. And like I said at the start, this video is built around talking about taking down DEX. So if you are looking for some very good options, take a look at the strength strikers because they can do a lot of work. And as you see here, we're actually taking down the challenge fight against Pell, which is exceptional because this fight is by far the hardest PvP fight in the entire game. And even with strength, 90% of strength teams still struggle at taking this fight down. One character that you can easily put on this team, though, talking about PvP rare recruits, though, is Sasaki. Sasaki is a striker. He can easily go in where Luffy Yamato is, and then you can just run a full bench with stuff like King. You can use Kakus, you can use Laws, you can use Sonyas, and that gives you a lot more depth towards the back end. So, if you have Sasaki, if you summon on that PvP banner, I'd be very happy because the Sasaki and Husu are actually really, really good characters, especially the Sasaki for this particular team, as he's also a striker, getting those extra buffs from stuff like the waifus from Kaido and stuff like Luffy Yamato if you're using that as well. But this team works great. Jack is a staple, Kid is a staple, and they're two of those characters that I mentioned that sort of hold together majority of the strength builds that you will be putting together. So let's move on to the next team now. The next team is Strength Slashers. Strength Slashers got an absolute rise with K-Dad getting a massive buff with the update. K-Dad now does a whole extra attack and provides defense. And if you combat that with Toki, with the nerfing capabilities of Dex there, and then Law with his sustainability, he's Chonk. You have Kaku for reducing defensive Dex as well. Plus, you have the ability to reduce their speed. Odin can also do fixed damage. He does a lot of damage, and everyone here basically is a slasher, and then is buffed by the slashers from Odin as well as K-Dad. So the synergy on this team works exceptionally well, and everyone sort of just still gets buffs, and they get cooldown reduction from Toki, they get healing from Toki, the damage of K-Dad and Odin pretty much carries them through, and then your Chonk from Law helps you out quite a bit here. So this team's very, very good. I have seen screenshots of my Alliance members using this to take down the Dex challenge fight as well. It does work very, very nicely. However, it's basically just raw power. It's a very well synergized team. You also have Arlong as another option. He is a slasher as well. And the depth on this team is exceptional because you can run an 8-man squad. Sandersonia works great. Even without Boa, King is obviously an exceptional nuker, even if you aren't running fighters. And like I said at the start of the video, even if you don't have all the synergy in the world, the depth of the strength team really holds together. But this team is so nice because slashers are exceptional in Fire Rumble. They always have been. They've always been very, very good. And seeing them back at the pinnacle, thanks to literally just one update where they just gave K-Dad defense and an extra attack, it's really nice to see. And if you are coming up against Dex fights, namely those characters like Dopey's and Brooks and all these characters here, like these fights, these teams that I'm coming up against, they're not crazy, like super, super high teams. But they are in the top 1,000. Like, so this is top 1,000 championship PvP. So take it however you like it, but these teams aren't terrible teams, and it's not like we're just versing like baby stuff. However, strength, as I said at the start, they're in a weird spot. They're by far nowhere near the best color team, but now they're sort of getting a little bit more synergy amongst them. It is quite nice as well. So this particular team's a lot of fun. Try it out if you haven't tried it out already, and the Slashers, they get the work done. An upside to this team too is you're running a lot of rare recruits or PvP rare recruits. Maybe that's a bad thing because a lot of people might not have these characters. But a character you can easily just slap on the team is actually Jack. You have the room to run one more legend. And as you guys see with the main lineup, you have your full bench as well. So you can actually use Jack for HP cutting, for more tankiness. And Jack is just such a fantastic unit on pretty much any team that you put him on. Namely, like Strikers, Strength, Rainbow teams. Like, he just works exceptionally well. Fighter teams. So just chucking him on this team just provides so much, because in the early stage, he's going to give HP cutting, he's going to give you defense, he gives you sustainability with the amount of bulk he has. So the character is very, very good, and on top of that, you have the healing capabilities of Toki. So as you guys can see, that Jack just sort of comes in and hits for like 8,000 with all those HP cuts, which allows you to then hit very hard with the fixed damage of Odin and K-Dad as well, and actually helps out these slashes and the damage output that they have very, very nicely. He's a lot better than any other Pirate Festival rare recruit that you would put on this team. I would highly recommend him over Kaku and then moving Kaku to the bench. Even though Kaku is very, very good at nerfing DEX per se as well. So, Jack, exceptional. You could even run Luffy Yamato on this team as well. Another really good option. They don't hold as much bulk as what Jack does, but they're going to give a lot more damage output than what Kaku could provide. But I think the bulk is sort of what gets us all over the line here against the DEX Challenge Pell. So, if you have Jack at level Liberate 4, be very happy, because he's one of the best PvP characters in the entire game, and he's just aged like goddamn fine wine. So, if you are running strength 99.9% of the time, you are going to run Jack. I know I've said that 99.9% a lot today, so I do apologize. But if you have him, chuck him on the team. Even without the synergy, he does really, really well on this sort of strength slasher team, because he's just buffing everyone, and he's not getting buffed by like Law, Odin, and K-Dad per se. But as you can see, like, he's just an absolute Chad sitting in the front there, just being Jack, I guess. So, funny enough, he's with all of the Wano slashes, which he kind of like is designed to take down. But nevertheless, this team's really, really cool. It works exceptionally well for this challenge as well. So if you're looking for a team to take down the DEX Challenge Pell, this particular team might be up your alley. And if it does work for you, please let me know in the comment section below, because it is a very nice team, and it does seem like it does absolute wonders. So I'm going to sort of fast forward to the end of it, or actually I think it wraps itself up pretty soon here. So there's nothing really else to say about this particular team. I think I like strength slashes the most out of the strength teams now, especially with the K-Dad buffs. But the team that I stereotypically run is the next team, and we're going to talk a little bit about that and why it does seem to work so well and why I tend to run it, because it's more of a strength-centric team rather than these sort of class-based teams that also satisfy the color of strength. And again, whilst that's nice to see in synergy, it is a big downfall of the teams, because you sort of need all these pieces of the puzzle to make them work. You don't have to. The jankiness can work when it comes to strength, but it can be a blessing. It can be a curse. I think this goes down to like 1 second. Does this fight? Yeah, I'm pretty sure this fight goes literally down to the last second. I'm fairly certain it does. But you can always play into the jankiness too, especially in PvP. Like, everyone gets so caught up on synergy that you just forget that sometimes good characters are good characters, and you can just chuck them all together and just watch them just unfold teams, which is kind of nuts. So there you go, King wrapped it up there. Let's move on to the next team. And the final team is the one that I like to use more often than not. It's more of the jankier build that's sort of centric around just buffing strength. We are using Kazuna Boa, we have Arlong, and then we have Jack on the team as well. We have Kuma, who got absolutely monstrous buffs with the very first PvP update to characters. He now hits 2 units to go through defense, and then you have Kid as well, who can go through defense as well, which is just amazingly strong. With this particular team, you do have the option of running an 8-man squad. As you see, I'm running Kid, you got Law, you got Sandersonia. All these characters work exceptionally well, and building out an 8-man team works very, very nicely for this team, because it does have that sustainability at the back end. Plus, the combination of Boa and Sandersonia is exceptional, because you get so much damage output just generically from Sandersonia, but you also get the cooldown reduction that she can provide as well. As you can see, Kid goes off very, very quickly. Stereotypically, you want him to go just after Jack, so Jack does those crazy HP cuts, and then you have Kid come in, he does all that damage, and then Kuma can follow it up as well with all his damage. You have more attack buffs and defense buffs with Arlong, so for more chonk as well. And the defense that Boa can provide with her passive is great as well. Her damage output's kind of sucky, and she also has that confusion effect, just like the waifus, which I do like a little bit more, especially on this particular build, because you don't have to worry about like keeping it very striker-centric. But her big downfall is that she can bind the same units that she gives that confusion debuff to, which kind of hinders that debuff, right? Because if they have a special and they're binded, they're not going to go, and if they do go, they would literally just lose it thanks to that confusion. So as you can see here, Kuma just comes in and he just wipes out units, which is so much fun. So very, very handy when he actually does that. But with Dex, they obviously have Revive of Luffy. Luffy is a big character that you want to look for and be very careful of when it comes to Dex builds. 99%, wow, I missed it again. Most of the time, he's on like every single Dex build you'll come up against, because he's like the first unit you want to put on a Dex team. However, when you do see him, just be mindful that you are going to see the revive, and if you do see Blackbeard on teams too, also be very careful of that. It's a character we're going to touch on the back end when we talk about subs, as well as like units to be careful of, because these two units on the Dex team, they help them out a lot. And as you can see, like this particular team takes me down to the absolute wire, because it does have some very, very good healing with Brook. It has like fixed damage with Queen. That revive and Dofi can sort of pop off too. But lucky for us, we have so much damage with Kid. There's so much damage with Kuma. Jack is keeping us alive with his defensive buffs, and those HP cuts are very, very handy too. Sandersonia is great. She can give cooldowns in this team. It functions really, really well. This is my go-to sort of strength team, and the one I tend to use like quite a lot. Not only can it take down Dex, but it's also very, very good at taking down stuff like Psy and some other class-based teams. But as I mentioned at the start of the video, strength does struggle quite a lot when versing any other team that's not Dex. It definitely doesn't go up against Quick, obviously its counterpart. It very much will not deal with a mirror match, because mirror matches are always chaos. And Psy and Int Driven is just, it's way too good right now. As for the class-based teams, shooters are just too tanky for it, and they have too many quick units. Cerebrals can be very scary if they have stuff like Sugar, but if you are going to go up against anything, you really want to make sure that you are going up against Dex. That is the big pinnacle here. But strength is quite nice, as it does have a lot of very good bench options. As you can see, you've got stuff like King, you've got the Who's Who rare recruit, Sasaki's a great option, Sandersonia, and if you have the spot, you can always run Kid. Kid is a really, really good bench unit, because he can just come in and pop his special off. If you do have a PvP character, instead of using them as a bench unit, you can always run them in the front and then bring Kid on the bench, which works exceptionally well. Some characters to look out for are the big ones of, obviously, quick-based units. Izokiku, Akainu, they're very, very scary. Izokiku can pop up on stuff like the shooter team, so be careful there. Sugar absolutely decimates strength in terms of reducing their cooldowns, as she can pop up on stuff like Cerebral teams, with like Cerebral Quick now being like quite a big thing. So just be careful of that. If you do see Sugar, she can be an absolute problem. The final unit to look out for, or the final couple of units to look out for, are Blackbeard on the Dex team and Luffy, because Luffy has that revive mechanic, which can then bring back something like Dofi or bring back something like Blackbeard, which means that you are going to take a big shot. Blackbeard has the ability to just do monstrous HP cuts, and then he does 2,500 fixed damage to strength. So just be very wary when you do see Blackbeards on the opposition teams. And you also have to be a little bit worried about stuff like Odin and Toki. Odin and Toki have the ability to do like a 1.2 times extra damage when they are versing strength or Dex. So be very careful there. Final unit is the GOAT, Whitebeard and Roger. If you are versing any Striker team, if you're versing any Slasher team, any build like that, Whitebeard and Roger can be an absolute powerhouse at just decimating and breaking the fractures of your team, especially if you're only running a 6-man team. Whitebeard and Roger come in, they kill 2 units, and it's basically GG from there, because the Strength team doesn't have that recovery like some of the other big-time teams like Free Spirit and stuff like that do. Nevertheless, Strength are... they're okay. I do give them a pass mark. If I had to rate them, I would give them 5 chili flakes out of 10. Because, look, they don't pack that much heat, but they're definitely a pass mark, because they definitely can take down Dex, which is their counterpart. If they couldn't, it would be a big fail. But if you are running Strength, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite units to run, how you like to run the team, and where it does shine the most for you. Or if I mentioned anything that, or if I forgot anything, I should say, please let me know in the comment section down there as well. But most importantly, wherever you guys are in these beautiful worlds, please remember to enjoy the rest of your day. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, do all that good stuff for me. Stay tuned for the next PvP episode where we focus on Quick, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Late!
からなど死んでも構わぬ。
私と一緒ならどんな夢でも叶う。
嫌だって。俺は破壊が好きだ。これならどうだ。
私の体を通り過ぎる全てのものはロックされる。
いい加減にして。